हरि ओम। अजं निर्विकल्पं निराकारमेकं निरानन्दमानन्दमद्वैतपूर्णं परं निर्गुणं निर्विशेषं निरीहं परब्रह्मरूपं गणेशं भजेम। श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। नमस्ते. Team Vedanta, Param Vedanta welcomes each one of you to this 29th session of Bhagavad Gita verse by verse. After completing Gnana Karma Sannyasa Yoga, we are today beginning to study Karma Sannyasa Yoga, the 5th chapter. Krishna dealt with different yagnas and supremacy of Gnana in the previous chapter, which has raised doubts in the Arjuna's mind as to which is greater, whether it is Gnana Yoga or Karma Yoga. Krishna, with all patience, answers his doubts in a methodical way. In the first half of this chapter, he explains the difference between the both. He underlines the importance of Karma Yoga and says how important role Karma Yoga plays in determining the efficacy of Jnana Yoga. Later, he goes on to describe the state of mind of a Jnana Yogi, and in the final slokas, prepares us to the next chapter on Dhyana Yoga or Atma Samyama Yoga. Our team of teachers, comprising of Srimati Sharmila, Dr. Asha Naik, Srimati Chetana, Srimati Sukanya, and Sri Amitabh Roy, and led by Dr. Hegde sir, will take us through the first 6 verses from 5.01 to 5.08. Towards the end of the session, Srimati Purnima Prasanna will chant these verses. Before we begin today's class, Dr. Divakar will take us through the Dakshinamurti Stotras we studied in the previous class. Over to you, Divakar sir.
Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Sadashiva in this shloka is none other than Dakshinamurti, who is the Adi Brahma Vidya Guru of Advaita Vedanta. Dakshinamurti is the deity facing south, or Dakshina Amurti, meaning the omnipotent formless Atma. Vedanta deals exclusively with the study of this Atma. And this study involves 3 sequential stages: Karma Yoga, Upasana Yoga, which gives the mental purity and makes one eligible for Jnana Yoga. And this in turn involves Shravanam, which is studying about Atma under a competent Guru over a period of time using Vedas. Mananam, convincing one's own intellect that he is Atma or Brahman. And finally, Nididhyasanam, which is assimilating and internalizing Aham Brahmasmi at all times. Dakshinamurti Stotra, which is composed by Adi Shankaracharya, is a Nididhyasana Stotra, which encapsulates the entire Vedanta. An advanced Vedanta student who has mastery over Karmopasana Yoga, Shravanam and Mananam will be the biggest beneficiary of Dakshinamurti Stotra. In the next slide, we see the Dhyana Shlokas, which are usually chanted prior to Dakshinamurti Stotra, are written by various Acharyas. The first Dhyana Shloka is Mauna Vyakya Prakatita Para Brahma Tattvam, which is from Manasollasa Vartikam, written by Sri Sureshwaracharya. He offers salutations to the Lord Dakshinamurti, who is revealing Advaita Brahma Vidya in silence through Chinmudra. This Dakshinamurti is always Yuva, symbolizing the timeless principle, and he is Swatma Ramam, the embodiment of the Brahmananda, the original source for all the happiness that we experience. In the next slide, we see the first 3 verses of the Dakshinamurti Stotra gives the essence of Atma Jnanam using Tat Tvam Asi Mahavakya. Each word in this stotra carries a deep meaning, and therefore one will have to repeatedly listen to commentaries of great acharyas such as Pujya Shri Paramarthananda Ji to understand its profound significance. Each verse ends with Tasmai Shri Gurumurtaye Namaidam Shri Dakshinamurtaye, which means my prostrations to this invisible Dakshinamurti, who is available in the form of my own visible Guru. Therefore, every Shishya looks upon his Guru who teaches Brahma Vidya as the manifestation of Sri Dakshinamurti. In the first verse, Adi Shankara reveals Tvam Padartha, in Tattvamasi and explains the relationship between I, the Atma, the consciousness principle, and the universe, the Anatma, the matter principle, using two beautiful examples, Darpana Nagari Drishtanta and Swapna Nagari Drishtanta. In Darpana Nagari Drishtanta, focus is on two aspects. One is the Darpana, the mirror, and other one is the reflected image of the city in this mirror. In Swapna Drishtanta, focus is again on two aspects. One is the dreamer and the other one is the waker. Let's look at these two examples together to understand the relationship between Atma, the consciousness, and Anatma, the body, mind, and the universe. Mirror is the substratum, the support for the reflected city. So is the waker's mind, which is the support for the dream. Therefore, the reflected city and the dreamer is mithya, as they do not have their own existence. They are dependent on the mirror and the waker. Therefore, the mirror and the waker is the satyam, which has its own independent existence. And they are only one, advayam. Despite all the different reflections and varied dreams, both the mirror and the waker remain unaffected. It is called as asangaha. Just as the mirror and the waker, I, the Chit Swarupa consciousness Atma, is the Adhishtanam, the supporter of the Anatma universe, including the body and mind. It is me, the Atma, which is Satyam, Advayam, and won't get affected, Asangaha, with all the happenings in the universe. This realization that I am the Adhishtanam Atma and there is no world outside of me, the consciousness, comes instantly on waking up, Prabodha Samaye, from the sleep of the ignorance or Maya Nidra. Just like the Mithya dreamer disappears instantly on waking up from the sleep, the Mithya waker also disappears on waking up from the Agnanam or the Avidya, which is also called as Maya. This claiming of I am the immortal Atma through Atma Gnanam is called as Sakshatkara. In the next slide, we see Adi Shankaracharya tell in the second verse, bringing out the Tat Pada Vichara, the Brahman, who is the Abhinna Nimitta Upadana Karanam, both the material as well as the intelligent cause of this universe. Just like a spider, who is both the designer of the web as well as the source of its raw material. According to Satkaryavada, the creation is nothing but a cyclical transformation between unmanifestation to manifestation and back to unmanifestation. Just as a tree will be there in the unmanifested potential form in the seed, Brahman is the seed of the universe, and the universe resolves back to Brahman during Pralayam and re-emerges again as though it is a new creation. This explains Brahman being the material cause for this universe. Just like a magician who produces many things out of himself, or a Siddha Purusha who unveils mystical powers, Brahman through Maya Shakti projects space and the time, Desha and Kala, because of which manifold diversities in the universe comes to existence. This manifestation is through mere Sankalpa, Swa Ichcha of Brahman, and this highlights Brahman as the intelligent cause. In the next slide, we see the third verse, which brings out the Asi Padartha, the Tattvamasi, in the Tattvamasi Mahavakya, which is the Jivatma Paramatma Aikya Vichara. This universe, macrocosm, is the manifestation of Brahman in the state of existence, Sadatmakam. Brahman is of the nature of pure existence and lends this existence to the universe. So all the existing material we see, including our body and mind, is the borrowed existence. When we say car is there, this is computer, world is existing, the very isness in the Mithya Anatma universe is the Sat Padartha of Brahman. Like the pure consciousness, even pure existence cannot be experienced. At Jivatma, the individual level, Brahman manifests in Chit Swarupa, the consciousness principle, because of the reflecting subtle body medium. Using Vedas, Guru teaches Tattvamasi Mahavakya, which is the direct revelation that Sat Swarupa Paramatma at macrocosm and Chit Swarupa Jivatma at microcosm are one and the same. Sat eva Chit and Chit eva Sat. Shishya, with very subtle mind, claims Aham Brahmasmi, with the understanding that I, the consciousness, is lending existence not just to my body and mind, but to the whole universe. Mayeva sakalam jatam. Closest one can get to experiencing this subtlest subject is by contemplating on the understanding of space and deep sleep. With this aparoksha gnanam, the direct realization, the gnani will no longer have any business with the sufferings of the samsara and detaches himself from the bondage of the punarjanma. The rest of the verses in the Dakshinamurti Stotra are the elaboration of these three key verses. Tasmai Shri Gurumurtaye Nama Idam Shri Dakshinamurtaye. Hari Om Sir.
Thank you, Dr. Divakar. That was an excellent recap of the first three verses of Dakshinamurti Stotra and the Dhyana Shloka. Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om. Dr. Divakar did not have time to explain the fourth and a very important verse that we studied last time, Nana Chidra Gata Udarastita Deepa Prabha Paswaram. What this verse was trying to explain is how we see things. We are able to see everything primarily because of consciousness. Neurology is able to explain how objects become converted to images in the eye. This image through the transducer in the retina is converted to electrical signals. The electrical signals through the optic nerve, the chiasm, the radiations go to the occipital cortex. And whatever images that I see on the two eyes, which were very small and were inverted, now become fused to one another, and it becomes one, and it becomes erect, and I'm able to see a 3D perception of the objects in front of me because of the work of the processing work done by the computer of the mind, which is the occipital cortex. Neurology goes through every detail to see how the signals go from the source of the stimulus that is in the retina till the occipital cortex. Where neurology ends, Vedanta begins. Vedanta believes that the body-mind is only an instrument. An instrument has to be used by some intelligent being. The question is, who is that intelligent being? We discussed in the last class, I am able to see the world because of the sense organs, and the sense organs report to the mind, and the whole world is reduced to thoughts in the mind. In the mind, I have so many thoughts which we call as idam vritti. There is one central thought, the ego thought, which says, I know all these things. That is the aham vritti. And the aham vritti is supported by the aham, the consciousness. That is what the fourth verse of Dakshinamurti says. In every experience, can you become aware of the experiencer? And that is the most important thing to be known. Janani iti. The same thing have been elaborated in the Bhagavad Gita in the 15th chapter, verse 6. Natad Bhasayati Surya. And in the Kathopanishad and the Mundakopanishad, in that famous verse, Na tatra suryo bhati na chandra tarakam nema vidyuto bhati kutoyam agni tvameva bantam anubhati sarvam. Because that consciousness in me, everything is illumined. Tasya bhasya sarvam idam vibhati. Once this understanding is there, that because of me, I lend consciousness to this body. Because of me as Atma, I lend existence to the whole world. This is what the fourth chapter of the Dakshinamurti. And in the third verse of Dakshinamurti, it reiterates what the sixth verse of the 15th chapter says. Yat gatva na nivartante tad dhama paramam mama. Once you have understood that, once you have reached that abode, there is no more coming back. We have completed the fourth chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Jnana Karma Sannyasa Yoga, and we enter into another amazing fifth chapter, which we will study 6 verses today, That is called Karma Sannyasa Yoga. Every chapter of the Bhagavad Gita has its own very characteristic. But if you look at the 5th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, you have studied it so many times. What is so unique about this verse? You will see there is no unique character. Every other chapter, you can immediately say something is very typical. If there is one thing that I would like to say is very characteristic, it is part 2 of Jnana Karma Sannyasa. It is an evolution of the same understanding. What we have spoken about inaction in action comes in so many of the verses, which we will see in the subsequent classes, not so much in the class today. Essentially, we are working on the highest aspect of karma, where you would like to apply it in our day-to-day activities in every situation. And through this spiritual understanding, I am not this body-mind complex. And therefore, the real renunciation, the real sannyasa here is renunciation of the sense of doership, that is the ego in me. And in today's class, we will understand different meanings of the word sannyasa. In the 4th chapter, the definition of sannyasa that was really brought out by Krishna is Vidvat Sannyasa. How do we remember Vidvat Sannyasa? Vidwan is a jnani. He has gone through Shravanam and Mananam. Vedantic wisdom is already there in him. Now, to deepen that understanding for the sake of nidityasanam, such a person can choose to take sannyas. Essentially, a person is relinquishing port. Swamiji has emphasized that all spiritual students have, if you have to evolve, we have to gradually relinquish our possessions, obligations, relations, and transactions, because the more we get involved in that, we are more focused on the anatma prapancha, and that will disturb and prevent us from working deeper into the real me. The real renunciation is the renunciation of the ego. When the great sage Yajnavalika wanted to take sannyas, his sannyas was actually a nice example of Vidvat Sannyasa, because he was already in a sense a jnani. And he really did not have to do more, but for spending more time on the teaching, he wanted to renounce his family, his wealth, his possessions. And that is the example of a Vidvat Sannyasa. In this chapter, when Arjuna asks a question, what is best for me? You will see most of the verses that Shri Krishna is trying to address refer to the Vividisha Sannyasi. Vividisha Sannyasi is one who is vividly a sannyasi. Often his hair is shaven. He is wearing an ochre robe. He has a life of lot of austerities. That's why Krishna uses the word dukkham. It is not easy to take the life of a Vividisha Sannyasi, because the yamas and the niyamas, like ahimsa, satya, asteyam, brahmacharya, aparigraha, sauchyam, these are very, very strictly followed. To the extreme, you will see among the Jain monks who lead a very, very austere life, both in food and in the living conditions. We will understand these various definitions of sannyasa today. We will begin by the opening verse by Sharmila. Over to you, Sharmila.
Gurubhyo Namaha. Chapter 5 is called Karma Sannyasa Yoga. This chapter is a summary of the last 3 chapters, where Lord Krishna teaches the entire Bhagavad Gita. Chapters 2, 3, and 4 mainly focus on 2 topics: sadhana, which is spiritual practice, and nishtha, which is lifestyle. With respect to sadhana, Sri Krishna has clarified that both Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga are required to attain moksha. Chapter 5 covers 4 topics. Topic 1 focuses on 2 types of lifestyles, or nishtadvayam. Topic 2 focuses on 2 types of sadhanas, or sadhanadvayam. Topic 3 deals with the benefits of following sadhana, known as sadhana phalam. Topic 4 introduces meditation, which is a preparation for chapter 6. Nishtadvayam is the first topic, and it is covered in verses 1 to 6. There are 2 types of lifestyles: Grihastha ashram, or lifestyle of a householder who lives in society, can get married, also called Pravritti Marga. The second is sannyasa ashram or lifestyle of a sannyasi who lives in seclusion, cannot get married, also called nivritti marga. So is there a choice between the two? Yes, but in both ashrams, karma yoga and jnana yoga are required to attain moksha. So let us see the advantages and disadvantages of each ashram. Grihastha ashram has security but is filled with responsibilities, while sannyasa ashram has no security and no responsibilities. Let us first understand the background for chapter 5. In spite of Krishna's elaborate teaching, Arjuna still wants clarity. Arjuna asks, Krishna, you are saying we can choose any ashram. What should I do? In verses 4.21 and 4.22, Krishna talks about both sannyasa jnani and grihastha jnani who get jnanam. Arjuna is confused as Krishna speaks about both. He wants Krishna to decide for him. Arjuna does not want to decide for himself because he does not have the mental strength to face the consequences. Arjuna yuvacha sannyasam karmanam Krishna punar yogam cha shamsasi yachreya etayorekam tanme bruhi sunishchitam. Arjuna asked, O Krishna, you are praising karma sannyasa and again karma yoga. Definitely tell me that one amongst these two, which is good for me. The word meanings are Arjuna yuvacha. Arjuna asked, Krishna, O Krishna, shamsasi, you are praising, sannyasam karmanam, karma sannyasa, cha punaha, and again, yogam, karma yoga, sunishtitam, definitely, bruhi, tell me, tad ekam, that one, itayo, among these two, yet shreya, which is good for me. Let us see why the Grihastha ashram is glorified. This ashram is the pillar of society which nourishes the three ashramas, namely Brahmachari, Vanasprastha, and Sannyasa. The Grihastha ashram gives Diksha to three ashramas. Hindu culture and Vedic culture say this is a glorious ashram which helps a person to attain freedom. Krishna glorifies the Grihastha Jnani who lives in the midst of activity and relationship and is compared to the lotus flower which is unaffected by the surrounding. In verse 4.21, Krishna glorifies the lifestyle of a sannyasa who's given up all his possessions and relationships. So Arjuna says, Krishna, you have glorified both performance of karma and renunciation of karma. Tell me which one is better for me. Out of sheer compassion for Arjuna, Krishna repeats the teaching as if it were a new topic. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Sharmila. That was a nice introduction to the 5th chapter about the comparison between a grihastha and a sannyasi. The question that Arjuna asks was, what is the best lifestyle to support spiritual growth? And you have nicely answered this question. We will go to the next verse that will be explained to us by Dr. Asha Naik. Dr. Asha Naik, please.
Om Gurubhyo Namah, Jai Gurudev. In 2nd, 3rd, and 4th chapter, Krishna has prominently discussed two topics. One is regarding sadhana and other is regarding lifestyle. With regard to sadhana, spiritual discipline, Krishna has made very clear that everyone has to go through this karma yoga sadhana and jnana yoga sadhana to attain liberation. And there is no choice regard to sadhana, but we do have choice with regard to lifestyle. The first, that is 5th chapter, Karma Yoga Sannyasa, is dealing with two types of lifestyle, Nishtha Dvayam. Next slide, sir. Nishtha means lifestyle, Dvayam means two. Life of activity is called Grihastha, life of householder, easy to follow for most of working people, and which is called Pravritti Marga. He can go to Vanapastha ashram as well as Sannyasa ashram. The second ashrama, life of withdrawal or life of seclusion, is called Sannyasa ashrama, monk. For special people with a particular set of mind, and only to prepared person it is wonderful. Non-prepared person it is risky. Here Guru and Shishya both have to give consent, then only you can take sannyasa. Now both ashramas has to follow karma as well as jnanam, and that karma alone is called ashrama dharma. So grahastha ashrama dharma will be karma yoga of grahastha, and sannyasa ashrama dharma for jnana yoga. Now let's see the similarities. Both can attain moksha or liberation. Both are conducive for spiritual sadhana. Nishrayase karo ubhau. Both are backed by Shravana and Manana, which is mandatory in both lifestyle. In Grahastha Ashrama, because of heavy duties, it may be difficult, but Guru will always tell you, keep your mind behind yourself and forget all the duties when you are doing Shravana. That way, you will require necessary mental condition to give Gyan. Once you have Gyan, after Shravana and Manana, you become Jnani and you called Vidvat Sannyasa, which Dr. Timappa already has spoken. Now the differences between two we will see, that is Dvanda, differences. One is a part of society, whereas Sannyasa is not part of society. Grahastha promotes sport. Sport is possession, obligation, transaction, and relations. He accumulates money, property, and has family, children, grandchildren, wife, and because of that, he feels very secure. But with security, responsibility comes, and that brings anxiety and tension and burden. Sannyasa ashrama does not reduces poor and does not have money, no family. Because of that, no responsibility as well as no security. Bhakti Bhiksham Dehi. Grahastha ashram designed for external karma and sannyasa ashram designed for introvert jnanam. In Grahastha, duties not Vedanta friendly, like attending function, marriage, other duties, which promote attachment, and that is Sangha Pradhana. In Sannyasa, duties are Vedanta friendly, like taking care of Guru, Ashram, Upavasa, Japa, which promotes less of attachment, so less of Sangha Pradhana. Next slide, sir. Grahastha is buzzing with activities of family as well as religious practices. So no quiet time at all, active and distracted always. Symbolically, he wears a sacred thread and tuft of hair. He occupies all rituals, prayers, puja, parayanam, and Saguna Ishvara name like Narayana. Whereas sannyasa has less activity, more quiet time, and as not distracted, studying Upanishad, using Mahavakya as a mantra japa. Next slide. Arjuna wants further clarity regarding this Nishtha lifestyle, because the problem is once choice is given, there is a difficulty in decision making. So he wants Krishna to make decision, that responsibility to be taken by Krishna. We do not want to take responsibility because we do not want to face the consequences of our decision. Emotional Arjuna mind votes for sannyasa. He does not want to fight. He does not want to kill Bhishma and Droma, and he wants to escape. But he wants Krishna to endorse it. So helpless Krishna had to answer, and the verse goes like this: Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Sannyasa Karma Yogascha Nishrayasa Karo Ubhau Tayostu Karma Sannyas Karma Yoge Vishishyate. Next slide, sir. The Lord said sannyasa and karma yoga. Nishraya means moksha and liberation. Karo means both. Both sannyasa and karma yoga are conducive for liberation. So both are equal, and you cannot talk about inferiority or superiority. But still you have to choose one lifestyle is possible. So Krishna says tayostu, between two ashramas, karma sannyasa is better than sannyasa ashram. Karma yogo vishishyate, Grahastha ashram excels. For whom? Arjuna like us, majority working people. but special people like Sankaracharya always will glorify sannyasa. Aryo.
Thank you, madam. That was a very nice explanation of Sri Krishna's answer to Arjuna's question. If I have to focus on spiritual growth, would you recommend that I continue as a grihastha or should I take a sannyasa? The Bhagavad Gita is written by a grihastha Vyasacharya, taught to us by a grihastha Sri Krishna, and the student is Arjuna, who's also a grihastha. So the audience or the persons who are the ones who study are predominantly the grihasthas. So the answer to any question depends upon to whom it is addressed. And Sri Krishna tells for majority of us, grihastha ashram is better, and there is no way, although it may be difficult. Swamiji gives an example that if you have to cut a fruit, you can cut it with a knife or you can cut it with a screwdriver. But then it is difficult but possible. It is possible to continue as a grihastha with all your responsibilities. But there are occasional examples of people who become vidvat sannyasi. So this is Sri Krishna's answer to Arjuna's question. And we will listen to the third verse from Chaitanya. Over to you, Chaitanya.
Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. As mentioned by the previous speakers, from Lord Krishna's teaching, we came to know that there is no choice with regard to the spiritual sadhanas. So everyone has to go through Karma Yoga to prepare the mind and then progress to Jnana Yoga to attain liberation. But we do have a choice with regard to lifestyle or ashramas, either Grahastha or Sannyasa ashrama. But then how can one follow spirituality in Grahastha ashrama when there are so many distractions and problems? So for that, Krishna says, Grahastha ashrama by itself is not a problem if you know how to handle yourself. The primary problem in Grahastha ashrama is raga dvesha, that is likes and dislikes that we have with regard to people, objects and situations. When things fall short of my expectation, it disturbs me tremendously. Therefore, we must know how to handle attachment and aversion. That is what Krishna is telling us through this third verse. It goes like this. Neya sa nitya sannyasi, yona dveshti na kankshati, nirdvando hi mahabaho, sukham bandhat pramuchyate. Krishna says, O Mahabaho, O Arjuna, he, yana kankshati, who does not desire, na dveshti, does not hate, neya, is to be known as Nitya Sannyasi, as a permanent sannyasi. Why? Because Nirdvando, he is beyond pairs of opposites, Raga Dvesha, and Bandhat Pramuchyate, completely freed from bondage. How? Sukham, effortlessly. So according to Krishna, one can be a Grahastha and still enjoy the advantages of a sannyasi. He is glorifying Grahastha ashrama here. He says, handle your raga dvesha, likes and dislikes, because that alone makes grahastha ashrama burdensome. So if we develop raga dvesha, then life becomes miserable. Therefore, Krishna's advice is handle it carefully so that whether it is fulfilled or not, we learn to adjust and adapt. So he says, yana dveshti na kankshati, the one who knows how to handle his likes and dislikes. Krishna tells that such a person is a Nitya Sannyasi. He is permanently a sannyasi. Such a grahastha will have as much peace of mind as a sannyasi. He is a karma yogi. A classical example given of a Nitya Sannyasi is King Janaka. So here we have to note an important point. Krishna says, control your likes and dislikes. He does not say we should not have raga dvesha, because a human being cannot exist without raga dvesha. We will certainly have certain preferences in life. That is inevitable. So in fact, our personality is based on our likes and dislikes. Therefore, Krishna says, do not be a slave of your likes and dislikes. If you are able to fulfill them, good. And if you're not able to fulfill them, you should know how to face them. So how do we master our raga and dvesha? By converting them into non-binding desires. Have desires, but make it dharmic and non-binding. and be ready to face whatever happens. When we do not let it rule our lives, then we are a Nitya Sannyasi. Krishna continues and says, Nirdvando, that person who has managed to handle the pairs of opposites consisting of Raga, Dvesha, Labha, Nashta, Mana, Apamana, etc. Such a person is Bandhat Pramuchyate. He will be freed from bondage, freed from the shackles of samsara. How? Effortlessly, Sukham. So remaining in Grahastha Ashrama and following the two sadhanas of Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga, one can attain moksha. So in conclusion, according to Krishna, one has to handle his Raga Dvesha through internal renunciation. He is a Grahastha Sannyasi, a Nitya Sannyasi. He is always a sannyasi without his ochre robes. Ashrama has nothing to do with moksha. It is a mindset that matters. Such a Grahastha Nitya Sannyasi converts his house into an ashrama. Hari Om. Thank you.
Thank you, Chaitanya, for explaining verse number 3, which talks about Grahastha Sannyasi. If you see a picture or if you see a statue of Lord Ganesha, you will see one tusk normal, the other tusk is broken. Among the symbolism of Lord Ganesha, this is supposed to represent that Ganesha is free from the dvanda of strong likes and strong dislikes. As explained already, we will have likes and dislikes, but let that not overrule everything. You can be not too rigid about your likes and dislikes. Change them to preferences. And if you are able to name, he says this is the most important thing. If you continue to be a grahastha, but if you don't have the strong likes and dislikes, then you are a Nitya Sannyasi. Nitya Sannyasi means compared to a Vividisha Sannyasi who takes an ashrama sannyasa through certain rituals. So there is a time phase when he was not a sannyasi and now he becomes a sannyasi. But such a person who has evolved to have no strong likes and strong dislikes. This is Krishna's advice for all of us. You can be able to attain to Paramapurushartha if you do not have strong likes and strong dislikes. He uses the word Neyam. And to all students of the Gita, I want you to know, where does this word Neyam? In fact, it is one of the most important aspects of the 13th chapter, where it begins with a question among the various questions asked. There are 6 questions asked, terms asked by Arjuna. And one of them is, what is Neyam? And in the 13th verse of the 13th chapter, Shri Krishna says, I will tell you about Neyam. I will tell you about what is that which you must know. Perhaps that is the only thing that you need to know. And if you are able to attain to that, you have attained to the ultimate. And Neyam is, of course, the knowledge of your true self, about the Atma, which he will explain from verses 13 to verses 18 of the 13th chapter. The next 2 verses, verses 4 and 5, will be explained to us by Sukanya. Over to you, Sukanya.
Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. In the next 2 verses, Lord Krishna explains different types of sannyasas along with Karma Yoga to make it clear that both the ashramas yield the same destination. Sankhya Yoga Prithak Balaha Pravadanti Na Pandita Ekam Api Astitaha Samyak Ubhayo Vindate Phalam. Scripturally mature people think Sankhya and Karma Yoga are different, but the wise do not differentiate between the two. By resorting to any one of them properly, one attains the results of both. Sankhya, Yoga together is called here Yoga. Sankhya is referred to as Sannyasa. Yoga is referred to as Karma Yoga. Karma Yogi and Grihastha are synonyms. Sannyasa is renunciation of action. Karma Yoga is performance of action, but renouncing the fruits of action. 2 types of sannyasas are referred here by Krishna, Vividisha Sannyasa and Vidvat Sannyasa. Next slide, sir. Vividisha Sannyasa is taken with a desire for knowledge, and Vidvat Sannyasa is a Gnana Sannyasi, renunciation of actions through knowledge. In this verse, Vividisha Sannyasa and Karma Yogi are compared. Vividisha Sannyasa is an external sannyasa. He quits the family, becomes a monk. It's a lifestyle of seclusion. He follows rigid rules of the ashramas. He performs karmas relating to sannyasa ashrama only with regular scriptural study of Shravana and Manana. On the other hand, Karma Yogi is one in Grihastha ashrama. He has a greater roles to perform: family responsibilities, earning for the family, performing Panchamahayagna, along with scriptural studies, Shravana and Manana. These two lifestyles are diagonally opposite, but both of them follow Shravana and Manana. They also perform karmas for Chitta Shuddhi and become eligible for Gnana Prapti. They are both in triangular format. Their sadhanas are common for attaining knowledge, and their final destination is Nishreyasa Moksha. Ekam api samyak anushitavan ubhayo vindate phalam. Performing any one of the two properly, one gets the benefit of reaching the common goal, that is moksha. Just as Vividisha Sannyasi and Karma Yogi have to follow the same objectives to reach their common destination. The next verse is a continuation with an added message for sannyasa. That is, from Vividisha Sannyasa to Vidvat Sannyasa in comparison to a Karma Yogi. Next slide, sir. Yes, Sankhya prapyate sthanam tad yogai api gamyate. Ekam sankyam cha yogam cha ya pashyati sa pashyati. Yes, sthanam prapyate sankhya. That goal which is attained by the sannyasis, that yogai api gamyate, is also attained by the Karma Yogi. Ekam sankyam cha yogam cha. Both sannyasa and Karma Yoga are same. Ya pashyati sa pashyati. One who sees them as same sees it properly. That goal which is attained by the sannyasis is also attained by the Karma Yogis. One who sees the oneness of Sankhya and Karma Yoga from the standpoint of destination sees it properly. Next slide, sir. Sannyasa referred here is Vidvat Sannyasa. It's internal renunciation of ego supported by knowledge. Ahankara, Kartrutvam and Bhakrutvam renounced. He is a Gnana Sannyasi. Renunciation of action with detachment for action and doership. Karmas are no longer relevant for a Gnani. He allows things to just happen effortlessly. He is Nityatrupta Nirashraya. This is inaction in action. Whatever karmas a Gnani performs are only for Loka Sangraha. He is continuously involved in Nididhyasanam. He is in the binary format. His goal is moksha. King Janaka was an ideal example of a Gnana Sannyasi. Next slide, sir. In comparison, a Karma Yogi can remain in Grihastha ashrama, perform his family duties, perform Panchamaha Yajna, along with Shravana Manana, and also practice Nididhyasana to become a Vidvat Sannyasi so as to gain knowledge and get into binary format. In due course of time, he will walk on the path of moksha. Karma Yogi has to become Vidvat Sannyasi first to attain moksha. Vidvat Sannyasa alone is the ultimate and direct means of liberation. Options given are only with regard to the lifestyles. One who sees the ekam, oneness of sannyasa and karma yoga from the standpoint of destination has a clear vision of the two ashramas. Sankyam cha yogam cha ekam ya pashyati sa pashyati. The famous debate between Adi Shankaracharya and Mandan Mishra is believed to be on this topic of sannyasa and karma yoga. Mandan Mishra was a great karma yogi who later became a disciple of Adi Shankara by name Sureshwaracharya. Vidvat Sannyasa is superior because it has only one step for moksha, whereas karma yoga is a longer path with two steps. Ashrama or lifestyle is not a cause for samsara or ignorance. Likewise, ashrama is also not a hindrance for attaining moksha. Gnana alone can give moksha, whichever ashrama one chooses. Hari Om.
Thank you, Sukanya. A very nice explanation of both the verses where the comparison was done between the two ashramas, and you understood that ashrama does not matter. It is the sadhana that really matters. Sankhya, Yogo, Prathak, Balaha. If you think they are different, you are like a little child, like a prattle of your child. And he says, you will be able to attain through either one of the ashramas the benefits will be moksha, as you have nicely explained. The last verse today, verse 6, will be explained by Amitabh. Over to you, Amitabh.
Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Sanyasastu mahabaho dukkhamaptum ayogyataha yoga yukto munir brahma nachirirnadi gachyati. This is the concluding verse of the first section of chapter 5. In this section, we have seen that Lord Krishna talks about two ways of living, sannyasa and grihastha ashrama. Lord Krishna has made it very clear that one has the option to pursue either sannyasa or grihastha ashrama. Both are equally efficacious. Both have their pros and cons, just like living in a rented house versus one's own house. Then the question arises, which path is better for me? In this verse, Lord Krishna provides the guidance on which path to pursue depending on one's personality or constitution. Next slide, sir. Let's take an example. Can we say that physics is more important than chemistry or vice versa? The fact is, both are equally important in everyday life. However, if there is a choice between these two subjects, I will choose the one for which I have a better aptitude and liking. If I am good at solving problems, I'll perhaps go for physics. If I am having a tough time memorizing chemical equations, I am perhaps going to avoid chemistry. I'll benefit from taking physics, not because physics is better than chemistry, but because I am cut out for physics. It is the same with sannyasa and grihastha ashrama. Both are equally efficacious, but depending on one's personality, one is more suitable than the other for a particular individual. So what personality is better suited for sannyasa and grihastha ashrama? For sannyasa ashrama, a mature mind is very important. An unprepared mind is certainly not fit for sannyasa ashrama. Lord Krishna, in fact, gives a warning. Hey Mahabaho, sannyasa dukkham aptum, meaning sannyasa way of life is certainly not easy. Sometimes one may think that family life or work life is very demanding and they may like to escape from it, thinking that life of sannyasa is the solution. But that could be a big mistake. In 99% of such cases, a person is just jumping from the fire into the frying pan. As they say, the other side of the river bank always looks green. Those who cannot handle a lonely life are not suitable for sannyasa ashrama. Most of us don't want to miss companionship. When we start growing old, we begin to miss family and friends, and life becomes very lonely. It's not easy for most people to handle this. It can even sometimes lead to depression. In fact, in Western countries, where society is very individualistic, a lot of people keep pets for companionship. Thus, if one prefers a life of companionship, a social life, as opposed to a contemplative and lonely life, grihastha is certainly the preferred alternate. A life of sannyasa requires mental preparation. Lord Krishna says, Yoga yukto munihi. Munihi is a person who has got a contemplative mind. So how does one get a contemplative mind? Through yoga yukta. That is, through the practice of yoga. One who has prepared the mind through appropriate sadhanas will attain moksha. While opting for sannyasa, it's also very helpful to take the advice of a competent guru, as only a guru is in the best position to assess whether one is ready for sannyasa. Finally, Lord Krishna advises that for majority of the people, grihastha is ideal and sannyasa is suitable for a very small minority. That is certainly a reassuring message for all of us. Hari Om.
Thank you, Amitabh, for a nice explanation of this verse. telling which ashrama is better for whom. And that dukkham here means difficult. This verse has also highlighted the difficulty in taking Vividisha sannyasi. With that, we complete today's class. Our next class will be on the same chapter, 5th chapter, verses 7 to 12. And you will see a sudden shift Krishna brings in the highest form of karma yoga through inaction in action. Yoga yukto Vishuddhatma, Vijitatma, Jitendriya, Sarva Bhutatma, Bhutatma, Kurvanapi na lipyate, Naiva Kinchit Karomiti. So, Pashyan, Shrinman, Sprishyan, Jingran, Ashnan, Gachans. So, all those verses will come, and how you will be able to be in action but not be affected by action. We will conclude the class today by the chanting of verses, the first 6 verses by Purnima Prasanna. Over to you, Purnima.
Harihi Om Atha Panchamodhyayah Karma Sannyasa Yogaha Arjuna Uvacha Sannyasam Karmanam Krishna Punaryogam cha samsasi Yachreya etayorekam tanme bruhi sunishchitam. Sri Bhagavan Vacha Sannyasa Karma Yogascha Nishreyasakara Ubhau Tayostu Karma Sannyasat Karma Yogo Vishishyate. Jneyassa nitya sannyasi yo nadveshti na kankshati nirdvandvo hi mahabhaho sukham bandhat pramuchyate. Sankhya yoga prutak balaha pravadanti na panditaha ekamapyastitas samyak Ubhayor vindate phalam yat sankhya prapyate sthanam tadyogairapi gamyate ekam sankhyancha yogancha yah pashyati sa pashyati sannyasastu mahabaho dukkhamaptumayogataha yoga yukto munir brahma Nachirena Dhigachati. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om Tat Sat. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Purnima, for the nice chanting. Thank you all speakers of the day for the wonderful presentations, and pranams to Dr. Hegde sir for guiding us through the class so beautifully. Bhagavan Sri Krishna's prime goal of this entire Bhagavad Gita is to prepare and make Arjuna engage himself in this Dharma Yuddha as Karma Yogi. Our DBG drives home the same point of Krishna beautifully in his Kagga. Iruva kelasava madu, kiridenade manavittu, doretudha hasada vendunnu bonagidade, dharisu lokada bharava, paramarthavanu bidade, horadu kare baral alade mankutimma. We will study next set of verses of 5th chapter in our coming session. Please log in by 6:45 p.m. on Friday evening. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om.